What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some awesome information and discussion to go over, but before we get into any of that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new for daily gaming videos and live streams. Now let's first go ahead and get into Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch. Last week was the big E3 week where Nintendo, Microsoft, and various other companies had a lot to reveal, and one of the most, I would say, exciting announcements of the show was Metroid Dread. This is the first new 2D Metroid game in nearly 2 decades, and it's launching this year on October 8th. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over the original announcement because I never really talked about it in terms of what Metroid Dread is officially from Nintendo. I just kind of showed a lot of excitement and hype about the game in my live streams and in some of my videos, but I wanted to talk about the game itself first, and then I wanted to talk about the sales of the game, because that has been one of the big things, or one of the big, I would say, talking points is how's the game going to sell, and also the price of the game as well, if it's worth the $60 or not. So we're going to discuss all of that in this video, and I'm going to go over a number of points to why, one, everyone, or at least a lot of people, are very excited about this, and two, this is probably going to be the best selling Metroid game of all time. So let's go ahead and first get into the little bit of an overview from Nintendo. So join intergalactic bounty hunter Samus Aran in her first new 2D Metroid story in 19 years. Samus' story continues after the events of Metroid Fusion game, when she descends upon planet ZDR to investigate a mysterious transmission sent to the Galactic Federation. The remote planet has become overrun by vicious alien life forms and chilling mechanical menaces. Samus is more agile and more capable than ever, but can she overcome the inhuman threat stalking the depths of ZDR? Face off against unrelenting EMMI robots. Once DNA extracting research machines, the imposing EMMI are now hunting Samus down. Tensions are high as you evade these EMMI to avoid a cruel death and finding a way to take them down. Find out what turned these robotic wonders into the scourge of the ZDR and escape with your life. And last but definitely not least, feel Samus's power grow as you gain maneuvers and abilities. Acquire new and familiar abilities as you traverse the many environments of the dangerous world. Parkour over obstacles, slide through tight spaces, counter enemies, and battle your way through the planet. Return to areas to use your new abilities to find upgrades, alternate paths, and a way forward. Explore the sprawling map, evade and destroy EMMI robots, and overcome the dread plaguing ZDR. So once again, very cool announcement trailer, very cool gameplay footage from the treehouse, and I wanted to talk just first about this game. Obviously, it's a 2D game, but it's built within a completely 3D in terms of graphics engine. I think that's one of the misconceptions about this game. I'm seeing comparisons to stuff like Hollow Knight. I'm seeing comparisons to stuff like Celeste. I'm seeing comparisons to Ori, which Ori is definitely, you know, all those games are great, and Ori has the 3D stuff built into it as well. But Metroid is one of the games that was the originators. Metroid is one of those games that was built, when it comes to all these other games, was built off of kind of what Metroid did, the Metroidvania type of experience. First starting off with Castlevania, saying, hey, we're going to copy what Metroid did and then add our own RPG elements into it, and then so many other publishers and developers copying that. So first and foremost, everybody else has been copying Metroid for the past 30 years plus. Another thing that I would say about this, from based off of what we're seeing here, if you watch the gameplay, the treehouse footage, a lot of the stuff, the game has its moments to where it has super high quality cutscenes, super high quality, very nice looking graphics. Mercury Steam has been absolutely phenomenal when it comes to their technical prowess over the years, starting off with Castlevania Lords of Shadow when they did that, then even to the Castlevania game on the Nintendo 3DS, then to Samus Returns on the Nintendo 3DS as well. So they once again have done a great job, and the game is not quite finished yet. I'm pretty sure by the time that we get it into our hands on our Nintendo Switches, it's even going to look better than what we saw with the demo version at the treehouse and everything. So the game looks phenomenal. The graphics look great. The cutscenes are high quality. It's definitely worth that $60 in my opinion, based off of the quality of Samus Returns, what we saw on the 3DS, which that game was $40. Now we're going from 240p all the way up to probably 1080p, or at the probably minimum would be 720p if you're playing in the handheld mode. So you're going to get that on top of it. You're going to get a full adventure, because Samus Returns is not a small or tiny type of game. I'm pretty sure this game is going to be packed full of stuff to do, great replay value and more, just like Samus Returns was worth well more than its $40 if you played that game to its entirety and kind of saw what the replay value was and what they packed into that game. It was very good. There's a reason why Nintendo went with Mercury Steam again to make this Metroid game, and I feel that if this Metroid game does extremely well, I think that Mercury Steam is going to become a very trusted partner for Nintendo when it comes to making other types of games within the Metroid franchise, when it comes to taking the 2D gameplay to another level, to where we can get that balance like we had back in the early 2000s and mid 2000s of 3D Metroid and 2D Metroid. So I feel that that's going to happen if Metroid Dread is very successful. But let's talk about that. I do feel that Metroid Dread is going to be very successful, because so far it's been doing pretty good on the Amazon bestsellers all last week. It was the #1 game here in the US. It slipped just a little bit to #2, because guess what's coming out this week? Yep, Mario Golf Super Rush. But that's okay. I think once Mario Golf Super Rush comes out, it's going to do fine. But as we get closer to Metroid Dread's release, it always raises up when it comes to the sales in all the different areas with these certain Switch exclusives. Now, Amazon has always been dominated since the Switch came out with Nintendo Switch games, because physical is something that just happens on all of Nintendo's variations of the Nintendo Switch. From the Switch Lite to the regular Switch, you can always play physical games. There's no digital only system, so you're always going to see a bevy of Switch titles. So it's good to see that Metroid Dread is continuing to sell. Now, another thing that I want to bring up, shout outs to John Cartwright over on Twitter. He also works at Nintendo Life. He actually posted up what retailers were doing when it comes to Samus Returns. So this essentially shows the buzz for the game and the hype and excitement. People are snapping up the game. People went there and started buying up the game in droves because Metroid Dread was announced. People went there and said, oh snap, I'm gonna buy Metroid Dread, new 2D game. Let's go back and look and let me play some of the other games as well. So it's very interesting to see that domino effect, right? When it comes to a new game being announced, which brings interest in the older game. People want to get into this Metroid franchise now that it's coming to Switch. And I feel that that's exactly what's going on here. That's the reason why this game is going to be a lot more successful than what we saw before in previous games. And if you look at the history of Metroid, no game has ever sold over 3 million copies. I think the best single release Metroid game is like Metroid Prime, like at 2.84 or something like that, or 2.85, whatever the case is. It would need to get about 3 million units for it to be the best selling Metroid game. And I think that if you look at any of the games that struggled or didn't sell as well, but had some success on Nintendo's previous system, the franchises like Pikmin or like Fire Emblem, for example, all of those games had their best sales for the franchise ever on the Nintendo Switch, because it's a hybrid, it's a portable, and it's a home console. And on top of that, the sales and the momentum of the system have just been amazing. By the time that Metroid Dread comes out, the Switch is going to be at 90 million plus. So it's going to have a huge, healthy install base. You're going to have an appetite of nearly 20 years for a new Metroid game, and you're going to have a lot of people like myself and other people pushing this game because they want it to do well, and they also want RGT to play Balan Wonderworld. So that's another incentive for people to go out there and play this game, buy this game, and pick it up. So I think it's going to do fantastic. Fire Emblem Three Houses became the best-selling entry in the franchise's history on the Nintendo Switch, and that dates all the way back. You know, that's an old school one, so I think that we're going to see the same effect here with Metroid Dread. I have so many people saying, yo, this is my first one, I'm checking it out, I'm going to have some fun with it, it looks great. So I'm excited to talk about Metroid Dread. I'm excited to get more into the game because I think that this is going to be fantastic and people are going to love the title, and it comes out at a very prime spot, a very prime opportunity right there, early October. That is great. Mario Party comes out at the end of the month. You don't have anything that's huge that's going to come out that's going to maybe overshadow Metroid Dread. Nintendo is focusing on the marketing for the game. I mean, this is just something that I think it's going to finally create that big 3 million plus sales for the Metroid franchise, and it's going to happen here, and it's going to give us a little bit of a lead up into what we could see for Metroid Prime 4 and how that game's going to do. What are your thoughts on this, guys, when it comes down to Metroid Dread? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys, we're going to talk just briefly about The Legend of Zelda, the 35th anniversary, and somewhat of the disappointment that a lot of fans had out there, because at the most recent Nintendo Direct, Nintendo showed off The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Nintendo showed off the Age of Calamity DLC, which looks absolutely amazing. That season pass, the new weapons, and Princess Zelda on like the Master Cycle and all that. And we also got the first gameplay footage and themes for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel. So there was some Zelda goodness packed into the show. And also the announcement for the Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda system, which does come with 3 big games in the Zelda franchise. $50 is kind of what they did before with like the Mario Game & Watch and everything like that. So that's awesome. But there was a lot of fans out there that were looking forward to potentially getting some more Legend of Zelda goodness when it comes to games. And Mr. Anuma said that, hey, we don't have anything else planned for games when it comes to the 35th anniversary. And while I feel that, yes, I'm going to take him in terms of what he had to say, I'm going to take what he had to say as true, I still feel that Nintendo has plans at some point for this, because just like The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, where Mr. Newman said, no, we don't got anything planned when it comes to that, and then we saw that game, I think that that's the same thing here. They have Metroid that's coming out this year, they have Mario Party that's coming out this year, they have Advance Wars, they have WarioWare, they have quite a bit of stuff. They have Shin Megami Tensei 5 as well, and also Pokemon. There's a number of games coming out this year along with Skyward Sword and Mario Golf. I mean, and if you just start dumping out a bunch of Legend of Zelda games, it seems even after Skyward Sword, 3 other games plus everything else, that definitely creates a lack of money for some people to pick up certain games, and I think that's where Nintendo's kind of going. They don't want stuff to get overshadowed by some of these other announcements. Plus, also, if you look at it, Skyward Sword being 60, if these games come out in a double pack the same year, are those going to be 60? Probably for both of them, maybe. I'm guessing, because those games were already in HD and less work than Skyward Sword, which was a Wii game where you had to kind of port that one over. So I'm thinking, just based off of just my own thought process, I'm thinking Nintendo didn't want to overshadow everything, and eventually these games will come probably next year, to where they fill in the gap somewhere early in the year before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. So that's just my thought process on that, but they probably shifted it to next year to not overshadow what's already coming out, and on top of that, what they already have for Skyward Sword and stuff like that. So that's just kind of my thought. I know that that's probably not an answer that people want to hear, because I thought they'd at least announced them this year, but when I go back and I kind of look at everything, I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably what's going on with this, considering I didn't know they were going to have this many games for the second half. I thought they're going to have about maybe 3 first-party games, 4, but they actually busted out a lot more than that. They've got like 5 or 6 when it comes to first-party titles for the second half of the year, so it's going to be pretty packed already. So those are my initial thoughts, and once again, I will talk about it a little bit more when it comes to later in the year, or maybe in a different video. So what are your thoughts on this, guys, when it comes to Metroid Dread and also The Legend of Zelda? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Going to give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you for the next one. Peace.